Hey guys, last couple of days been getting lots of messages from people asking about the AKB48 member and the apology. And the answer until now has been not interested, sorry, no comment, not interested, sorry, ridiculous isn't it? Sort of reactions like that, but the messages are increasing as more people see the apology, so more people are sending messages saying, you know, what's the story with this, what do you think, and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, first of all, have a look at it. Here it is.
坊主にすることを自分で決めました。こんなことで今回のことが許していただけるとはとても思っていませんが、まず一番初めに思ったことは AKB48 をやめたくないということでした。
So, yes, what's happening there is she was a AKB48 member, and despite the fact that the AKB48 management, the people who own them, make a heck of a lot of money out of sexualising their image, and you know, we've discussed AKB48 before. You know, they've got film clips with girls in underwear lying on a big bed kissing each other, and you know, it's a highly sexualised image, and that's why they're so popular. I mean, there's other people that like them for different reasons. There's lots of young girls that like them because they think they're cool and sweet and everything else, but it's obvious. It's obvious that their sexualisation is what's really made them famous, more famous. You know, if they were all sweet and innocent, you know, they wouldn't have been as famous in Japan as they are, of course, you know. So their sexualised images are sold in their film clips, it's sold in their advertising that they do, and that's how the management make their money from AKB48, is selling their image. So the same management people who do that with their image also make them sign an agreement that says that they won't date, that they won't have boyfriends and they won't date while they're members of AKB48. And that's for all the members, even if they're 20 years old like this girl is, or 23 years old or whatever. So this girl spent the night at her boyfriend's house and was caught, and as a result was thrown out of AKB48 for breaking the rules. So she shaved her head as a sign of penance, and then they made that video to apologise to her fans for breaking the rules. So it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But I think the only reason that I'm making this video is that there's a few interesting Japanese cultural aspects to it. So we'll start with the apology itself. That style of apology, without the shaved head, but that style of apology is really common in Japan. Quite often you'll see on Japanese news, Japanese TV, you'll see a press conference and you'll see a row of Japanese guys in suits all standing up and bowing deeply and apologising. And you can see, even if you've got the volume turned down, you know what's happening. That those guys have done something wrong, they've been negligent, or there's been some problem that they're responsible for, and they're up there apologising. So when the nuclear power plant blew up, the TEPCO nuclear power plant blew up, there's a group of guys from that company all standing in a row behind a desk, standing very sort of seriously and bowing really deeply and saying, I'm very sorry. And that's a big part of Japanese culture, that if there is some problem, whoever's at the top takes responsibility for it and has to do lots of deep bowing and deep apologising. So that's interesting part of this thing that's happening with this girl is that, you know, that's a very big part of Japanese culture. If you make a mistake, there has to be the very sincere, very deep apology, and preferably with tears. And you'll even see it with the guys in the big companies, you know, that the company's made some mistake and they've made some error that's resulted in someone being hurt or resulted in some damage, and they'll stand there and they'll bow really deeply and they'll get really emotional and a lot of tears, and they'll be, you know, showing how sincere they are in their apology. It's very important. It's very important. You have to do it. They have to do it. You know, they have to do it, and they have to make it look as sincere and as emotional as possible. So that's an interesting part of Japanese culture that you can see with this exhibition, with this goings on. So there's that. I don't want to seem as if I'm being uncaring or something about this, but it's difficult to care. I mean, you know, the whole AKB thing is a thing. The girl had an agreement with them, you know, and a written agreement. She knows the rules. Everybody knows the rules. Everybody in Japan knows AKB members are not allowed to have boyfriends. It's common knowledge. She knew, and she broke the rule, and she got caught. So the other interesting aspect to it is we made a video not so long ago about the difference between reality, fantasy, and illusion in Japan, and this is another example of that. Is that the AKB members are used as fantasy for middle-aged men, you know, with the film clips they make and the advertising that they do and everything else, and the fantasy about them being sexualised is okay. You know, it's okay to have them kissing each other in their underwear on a bed, and it's okay for them to, you know, they do all sorts of stuff like that where they over-sexualise them. The recent one with that other member that was in an advertisement naked with the young boy's hands, made a video about that too. So those sorts of images, that fantasy is okay. And the illusion that, you know, that they're sexy young girls and everything else is okay. But they also want to give another illusion that the girls are all very sweet and innocent. So it's okay to sexualise the image, but it's very important that they're sexualised as really innocent. And that's a really classic in Japanese culture too, is, you know, even through to their pornography is the same. It's always, you know, innocent girls who don't want to be touched being molested and groped by dirty old men is the standard, you know, in magazines and in porn video and in the AKB fantasy. You know, it's the same thing. They're all sweet and innocent. They're a little bit sexual with each other, but, you know, it's all just an illusion thing that they're all sweet and innocent. So, again, another aspect of Japanese culture, if she'd went to a love hotel with her boyfriend and was discreet about it and nobody knew, nobody would care. And we've talked about that too, you know, in other videos, is that here's the fantasy, the illusion, and the reality again. As long as the illusion is that they're sweet and innocent, that's all that matters. If they really are sweeter than innocent or not, doesn't matter. So if she wanted to go to a love hotel every night with her boyfriend, it wouldn't have mattered as long as she didn't get caught. And they wouldn't have been trying to catch her either. They wouldn't have been, you know, following her around trying to catch her if she'd been discreet. But she went to her boyfriend's house and it was just too easy. They found out about it and she got into trouble. So, you know, to all those people that are interested in it, to the AKB fans, look, I don't mean any disrespect by this. It's great that lots of people, I know AKB fans here of all ages, young and old, and that's great. You know, that's great. And the girls themselves, good luck to them. You know, and everything else. It's just that none of this is unusual. Everybody knows the deal. Everybody knows the deal with AKB48. Some people disagree about the sexualisation thing. They think that that's because Westerners look at it from Western eyes and that Japanese people don't sexualise it. But sorry guys, it's not true. And if you want to see that for yourself, just search AKB in Japanese, AKB members' names in Japanese, and search, and just spend a bit of time on the internet, and you'll soon see that AKB image is hugely sexualised, and that, you know, there's lots of like hentai type stuff around the edges of AKB, and it's sexualised. And if you know any Japanese people, ask them. Ask the men, ask the women what they think, and they ask them if they think that the AKB image is sexualised, and they'll say yes. You know, ask them what they think of the men that are AKB fans, you know, the middle-aged men who go to AKB concerts and that buy AKB stuff, and ask them what they think of those guys, and they'll tell you that they think it's ayashi, they think it's bimyo, they think it's sketchy, you know, they think it's not, you know, it's sexual. So you know, you've got a bunch of girls who are allowing themselves to be sexualised by a company, basically the AKB company is just about advertising and making lots of money. And again, there's some people who like AKB music, but you rarely hear AKB music in Japan. It's rarely played on the radio. You rarely hear it. And if you ask people why they are AKB fans, it's very rare to hear someone say, I love their music. It's really rare. It's the image. You know, young girls fantasize that they want to be members because they want to be idols. They want to be an AKB member because it's a fantasy to be famous and popular. And guys, you know, some guys like their music, some guys like their image, but reality is it's all sexualized. So that's why it's a bit hard to get all emotional for someone like myself to get all emotional about this topic, because yeah, everybody knows the deal. The girls know the deal when they're going in. You know, the young girls, their parents know the deal when they're going in. And that girl was 20 years old, you know, and she made a decision, and she knew what would happen if she got caught. I mean, that whole thing's ridiculous. And actually, there's another example of Japanese culture here too, is the fact that the company own her, and the company can say to her, you must not have a boyfriend, you must not do this, you must not do that. And it would be pretty unusual in other countries, I would suggest, for a management company to be able to tell an idol, a 20-year-old hop idol, that they couldn't have a boyfriend. You know, they'd be snorting cocaine and they'd have boyfriends all over the place, probably. But it's normal in Japan. And to extend on that, we can see other examples. So, for example, there's lots of high schools here that ban their students from having part-time jobs. You know, there's lots of high schools here that just tell their students they're not allowed to have part-time jobs while they're a student at that school, because they don't want it interfering with their study. They'll tell them they're not allowed to be have their images on the internet. I know a few students who've done that. A couple of our neighbours here told me that they're not allowed to be on the internet. They have their images on the internet. The school told them. You know, so the school basically owns the students. And the weekend, school says you must come here on the weekend and do your club activities, and you must come here at night, and you must do this and do that, and they do it. They just do it. So the school really controls the lives of the students. Often, not always the case, but often. And then adults, if you work for a Japanese company, they own you, and it's the same thing. The boss says Friday night we're going for drinks, you go for drinks. If you get caught speeding, or you get a major traffic offence when you work for a big Japanese company, they can fire you over it, even if you don't drive a car as part of your job, even if your job doesn't involve cars at all. If you commit any sort of traffic offence or any sort of other offence outside work, they could fire you. So it really is intrusive, you know. And it's the same, foreigners that come to Japan and work for Japanese English schools and live in their apartment buildings and things soon learn this, that if you work for a Japanese English school and you live in their apartment building, they'll tell you what you can do and what you can't do. You know, they'll tell you whether you can have guests staying in your hotel room. If you bring back your boyfriend or your girlfriend to your hotel room, you can't do that. And if you do it Monday morning, the boss might have you in his office. So that's another example of what we're seeing here with this AKB thing, is they own the members, basically, and they tell them what they can do and what they can't do, and if they don't like it, they fire them. You know, if the member objects or goes and breaks the rule, they fire them. So from that point of view, it's interesting. You know, there's a few aspects that we mentioned there that, you know, of Japanese society that are illustrated by this goings on. But it'll fade. You know, she'll go off. Poor old ex-AKB members don't have much of a life. You know, some of them have got into pornography and they don't have much of a life. Once they're not an AKB member anymore, they just get replaced. I mean, there's so many of them. And that's the other smart thing about that management team, is that they've got so many members in AKB that they can just slip members out and slip members in, and, you know, she'll be forgotten pretty quickly. And she'll go on to something else, probably, and they'll just replace her. And they won't even notice, the AKB group won't even notice she's gone. So anyway, those of you who are big AKB fans who find this all very upsetting, look, that's fair enough. That's understandable. That's just compassionate, and that's understandable. But the rest of us, I guess, there's just a few interesting little Japanese cultural aspects there that we can look at. So anyway, there it was. There we go. We've responded. So now when people send messages saying, "What do you think?" we'll just show them this video. Anyway, we'll move on to something more mainstream now. More videos coming soon.